Okay, I'm going to tell you about how I've been maintaining my bicycle chain and drivetrain. So in 2010 I got a new bicycle, a Rivendell Sam Hillborn, and I just used a typical chain lube from the bike shop and just added it mostly. You know, I'd wipe down the chain, kind of research on the internet, you know, good maintenance methods and that, the type of riding I did. And then lo and behold, at about 10,000 miles, which was a lot more than I'd really put on another bike before I got a little more serious and was commuting several days a week. So in a few years I had 10,000 miles on it, and apparently I completely wore out the entire drivetrain. Of course, the chain, wore out the two big chain rings, had to replace the cassette, and I guess there's a rule of thumb that chain stretch, which is really chain wear, that if you have a 1/16 of an inch extra length out of 12 inches, which is 0.52%, that then you should replace the chain, but you've probably not worn the cassette and the chain rings out to the point where you can't just go with a new chain. Well, I was well over 1%, so I'd ruined the sprockets and chain rings as well as the chain. So I thought I'd do things a little different from that point on. And what I learned was that, you know, typically you could use two chains for the life of the chain rings and the sprocket, but being a woodcutter and having chainsaws, the recommendation was to alternate chains, and that way everything wears together, and so you can get kind of better life. You're not putting a brand new chain on the worn out sprocket. So the new chains were some Connects stainless steel ones. They were premium chains. They came with quick links, so I could easily unhook them. And after studying the literature, I guess, or the internet, I decided to not lube the chain without completely cleaning it. And then for the lube, I switched from the bike shop lubes to, I settled on Shield T9. And I've been buying that in aerosol cans. And then as I got into this, I just went ahead and bought a gallon of it. And of course I reuse it. Once I soak a chain in it, it's not really dirty, clean chain. So I reuse it, not for lubing chains again, but for other things that don't need, you know, such pristine lube. So I'm going to put together some clips of my technique on how I've been cleaning it, and the results so far have been good. I've gotten, I guess, 22,000 miles on the second drivetrain, and I'm just over halfway to the wear limit for replacing the chain and not ruining the chain rings and the cassette sprockets. So one chain, my B chain, is 0.3% stretch, and my A chain is 0.26. So what I'll do is I'll kind of keep wearing or using the chain with the least stretch until it catches up with the other one, so it's not just a back and forth. Now, I don't measure chain stretch every time I remove the chain and lube it, which I'm doing now. I'm kind of keeping track of mileage, and sometimes I go by, you know, just the sound of it. If it starts to sound a little dry, then I'll do it. But typically I'm going just over 1,000 miles without touching the chain. And maybe every other time I'll do a pretty good job of scrubbing the cassette sprockets and that. Otherwise I'll just kind of wipe them down. And also the idler pulleys on the derailleur and that. So we'll get into some of the details here. I've just started cleaning this one, and I'm using Super Clean degreaser at full strength. And you can kind of see all of the black coming off. kind of brush it around, and I'll actually change this fluid out 2 or 3 times until it quits coming out black. And I'll flip it over and go backwards, just try and agitate it. It's all just at room temperature here out in the shop. And the good thing about this is that it cleans up with water. So then I'll clean it with hot soapy water to get all of the degreaser off. You can see I'm just going the opposite direction here. And the degreaser is getting blacker. And then I'll flip the whole thing over. Do it a few more times. Kind of reverse direction. Or start on the end and just try and bring it into a different coil here. Trying to exercise it. Get it all clean. Looks like I got a little kink in here, but I don't think that matters for the cleaning. I'll go backwards from the metal maybe. So like here's the kink here. And kind of what makes this process relatively easy is that these chains came with quick connects, so you don't have to press the pins out or anything. It's a quick link, I guess, and those did come with the chain. They're a Connects brand, I think maybe made in Germany, and they are stainless steel, so I don't mind using the water to rinse it in there. Okay, I've rinsed or washed the chain twice now with the Super Clean, the purple grease dissolver, and now I've just got hot soapy water, a little dish soap, a little laundry detergent. I'll just do a couple of rinses with that to get the degreaser. It's kind of a strong chemical, even though it cleans up with water soluble, I guess. And you're seeing a little bit of gray showing up in the water. That's nice about having this white pan, that you can easily detect the, I guess, the steel particles that turn the oil black. And I'm just really needing to rinse it. Again, do it a couple of times. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of little specks in the soapy water. I'm going to flip it over this time. Okay, you get the idea. I'll be back with the parts cleaner then. Okay, this is kind of the proof of how well the degreaser and soapy water did. This is just parts cleaner all-purpose, kind of like a brake cleaner, I think. Dries fast, leaves no residue, so that's kind of right before the oil, or in this case the Bow Shield T9, I think. So this is the stinky stuff. I mean, the degreaser smells, but I've got the doors and windows in my shop open, so if I weren't filming it, I might just do it outside too. Alright, That should be enough. Now we're looking just to see if we get any gray discoloration. It looks okay so far. But this will dry it out from any water that's left. You can kind of see bubbles from the soapy water. Yeah, it looks really good. I think I did a good job of cleaning with the degreaser. Just a little gray tint. Kind of maybe even a little milky from some moisture in the... Yeah, you can see we're getting a little gray there. So I'll do this 2 or 3 times to get it ready for lubing. Go back the other way. That's one of my tricks. Get everything. Like I said, flip it over. Stuff's kind of hard on the gloves. I don't like to get my hands in it too much. There we go. Flipped over, not too bad. So it's always better to use a little bit of solvent. This is whether you're cleaning paint brushes or anything. And then do multiple times rather than just doing less times with lots of solvent. If you do the math, you can see why that's true as far as percentage of the dirt versus too much vapor there. Go backwards with the tail here. So we flex all the joints nicely. There we go. Like this. Alright. So it's still a little gray. I don't know if you can see that in the bowl. So I'll probably do this 1 or 2 more times. I'm not using a whole lot of that can. The can will still be good for a while, but I'll spare you the footage. Okay, here's my setup for checking chain stretch. And you can do it however you want, but basically I've just got a right tape measure. Just made a couple of hooks to anchor it. And then just to take the slack out of it consistently, I've got a little fish scale here clamped to the bench. And about 5 pounds. So that's not so well, actually now 3 pounds. For some reason it must be slipping. Or the spring's getting weak. But anyway, I'm in the ballpark. There's 5 pounds. So I just twisted the anchor. Okay, so what I'll do is I will try and play around and line up a rivet, say at 10 inches, and that's probably just a little bit off to the right, so I'll play around a little more. Yeah, I shouldn't have messed with the focus, but you can kind of see the reflection of those hash marks centering up with the pin. And then you know, I'll look for like the first 1/16th, and then if I can get an 1/8 where the pins, because they're stretched basically, or worn. It's not really stretched, but for instance here you can see at 26 the center of the pin is about a 1/16th over. But what I'll do is I'll use the magnifier on my cell phone and kind of get that lined up and take as many 1/16th sort of increments as I can, and then I can calculate then basically what the average elongation of the chain is. So it's quite accurate. You can kind of almost use it like a vernier. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but you just look at each link and see which one is the closest to being perfectly centered up on a mark, and then you choose that one. So even though there's just a little bit difference between each one, if you just pick the best, you can get, you know, within a fraction of the resolution of one of those 1/16th of an inch marks. That's how vernier calipers and the vernier scale on the micrometer works in that. All right. Okay, I'm plotting the chain stretch or chain wear that I've measured with this drivetrain, the two stainless steel chains. And there's kind of a scatter plot. I didn't label the A or the B chain, but basically it shows that the stretch will be kind of at the limit, somewhere around 35,000 miles, which I think will be just great. Okay, so got the chains washed and my little measuring cup all cleaned out. And here's what I've been using, this Bow Shield T9. And right on the label, it says an application is bicycle drive chain, cables, frames, whatever. So, like I said, it's kind of leaves a waxy film. If you look down in the jug, you can see it needs just stirred up a little bit. The cap doesn't seal that well, so I'm kind of careful when I shake it up. I'm sure that'll be fine. And then what I'll do is just try and submerge the chain and jiggle it around and leave it soak for, you know, probably overnight, just to make sure we get everything in all the joints. And as expensive as this is, I won't just throw this out. This is going to be pretty clean stuff, and certainly clean enough for a lot of other applications that I have, which is, you know, keeping bare metal surfaces from corroding, tools and things like that. Okay, then after it's soaked, I will hang it up and catch the drips and let it probably hang overnight too. And then that lets it evaporate, so it's not so wet, and more of the waxy coating is all in the joints in that.